Let's create the update user route API. So we created this user profile page, perfectly done. Now let's go to the backend part. So let's close all this and go to the folder structure over here, collapse it, and go to the server. And now what you want to do is you want to basically go to the routes, and then in here we have user.route.js. So open this up. Okay, so what you want to do here is, first of all, let's zoom this in. Okay, and what we want to do is over here we want to create another route. So router dot, now this is going to be an update route, right? So it's going to update something. We can use post for updating as well as put. Well, it's a good practice to use put. Now, if you want to, update something with a put, so essentially you want to have to pass in the URL. So it's recommended. So if we could pass in, so it's essentially what we're seeing is that if we go to the index.js file, so you can see over here we have this /API/auth, and then the auth routes called. But in the other one is /API/user, and then we have user routes, right? So /API/user, and then we have /. Okay, so what we're gonna be calling this is called update, and then we're gonna update based on a user ID. So suppose I want to update Coding Cleverly's profile, so I have its profile ID, user ID. So that I'm gonna get from MongoDB. So I could basically say colon, and then I say, basically I could say user ID like that. Okay, now we basically want to have to create this controller here. So this is going to be called the update user controller. Okay, and we have to actually import this. So let's go to the controllers. Here we have user.controller.js, drag it here, and create this export const update user, and then we have just a random like that. Okay, so what do we have? Request, response, and then we have next for the middleware. And I also want to say is that this is just the update user controller, right? So we're actually importing it here. So what we could do is over here, control space, and then press enter. Now you basically update, you are importing the update user controller as well. Now, one thing what we want to look into this is very important. So the first thing is, look at this. We have this update user, but before updating a particular profile, you want to make sure that that actually is a legitimate user who's trying to update the profile. You just don't want to have a random person updating someone's profile. You want the only user, like suppose this is my account, I'm allowed to update only my profile, no one else's. So I have to check whether my cookie is the same as the profile ID that I searched in. So every person has a cookie stored in its local storage. I remember I created that token, so first of all, let's grab that cookie from the local storage. So over here, if you go to the application and then you go here, we'll see this local storage, and then we have this this persist root, and then you have essentially this stuff. So session storage, this is all there, right? So you want to grab that and you want to use that particularly for the for that purpose. So what we're going to do is, first of all, I'm going to go to here and I'm going to verify the user first based on that. So for that particular purpose, I'm going to go to these files here, go to the server, and over here we're going to go to the utils, and we have to create a new file which is going to be called verify user.js. Okay, so verify user.js file is now going to be responsible to verify the person's real authentication, right? We want to authenticate the user first and then allow them to update. So first of all, we're going to import JWT, JSON Web Token from JSON Web Token. Perfect. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to import error handler. So error handler, and this is coming from, remember, our existing error handler that we created from, and then we could just say this error handler.js. If you remember, no, it's not error handler.js, but basically it's this error file. So it's called error.js. So I could just say simply over here we have /error.js. So perfect. So we have error handler being imported, and we can use this error handler because this allows us to create a custom error, right? With the new error constructor provided by JavaScript, and you have the status code and the message, so you can just pass that as parameters and create the error for you. So what we're going to do is we have to authenticate the user. So again, we have to create a function here. We're going to have export const verify user. Okay, so verify user is equal to, and we have to essentially pass in three different things: request, response, and then we have next. Okay, so right here what we have to do is, the first thing is we have to grab the token from the browser. To grab the token, we could use const token, Okay, so I want to grab the token, right? So I'm going to use it in a variable called const token, but I have to grab it using the request parameter. So request dot, the request parameter, and then we have to use cookies, and then there's this special thing which is called cookies dot, and what is the name of our cookie? Remember that if we go to the auth, so if you go to the controllers here, remember the author.controller, and we created this sign up authentication, and then we had this cookies name that we created, and if I remember somewhere, where was it? We created it with access underscore token as the cookie name. Okay, so that's exactly what we want to say, is the same thing. So we have to say access underscore token, which is the name. Okay, that's the thing we grabbed. So we're grabbing this cookie from the browser and putting in a variable called token. Now, to make this work correctly, what we want to do is first we have to go to the index.js, and before going there, we have to import a package in our backend. So let's create, over here we have my backend running, but I would just recommend creating another one. So right here, you could see, you could split one more time. So there's going to be another one. You could go to CD, and then you could do server right here. Okay, so now you're in the server folder, and right here you're going to just say npm I, and then we're going to use the package which is going to be called cookie-parser. Okay, so this is going to allow us to collect the cookie. Now you can see my server restarted perfectly. I could just delete this, and it doesn't really matter. And now let's go back here. Now what you want to do is you want to grab that, and that's perfect. But before that, we have to initialize these things that we're using cookie parser in our index.js file. So first of all, let's import it. So we can say import cookie parser in camel case from, and then we have cookie-parser like that. Okay. So now we have this, and we want to initialize it. So right after when you create this application, so right here, so we have express application, and then app.use express.json. This is allowing us to send the JSON responses. But the same thing we want to say is that we want to say app.use, and we have cookie parser. Just that, and everything now will work, and we will be able to accept the cookie from the browser. And now we got it, perfect. So this is allowed to in our express backend. Now what we want to do is, based on that cookie, we have to check first if it's legitimate or not. So if that token does not exist, right? So if that token somehow does not exist, what we want to say is error handler. Before that, we want to use the next middleware. So basically, next will handle this problem. So I don't know why. So right here we have next, and then in here we have error handler, the function that we called, and then we have the 401 and unauthorized. So this is the thing over there. So that's when the token is not right, or it's not available. So you just say you're not authorized to you basically review the page, the updating page. So remember, this is for the updating, just viewing the page. And when you want to update it, there's going to be a difference. This is just verifying if the user is really legitimate and allowed to see this profile page, and then at the end of the day, ultimately trying to update the profile. So these are the checks that I'm putting in. So I'm saying first of all, check whether it's a legitimate token. Okay, when it's a legitimate token, then after that you have to check the JWT dot verify. You gotta have to check with JSON response. So you have to verify that it's the same guy. So token, you have to pass in from here, and you also have to put in process.env.jwt secret. Remember this thing we added very early in our videos? So in the early part of this app, we created this env, and in here we have this cleverly JWT secret. We used that before to create the token, and so we're using it again to just compare and verify if it's actually the same one, right? That you originally created. So we use that, and that if it's a success, it returns the user like this. Okay, and if it's an error, it returns this error. So these are the things that it returns. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to have those. So there are two different states, right? So if it's the error part, so we can say if the error part exists. So what we could just say is return the next, and then we have error handler like this, and then we can just say 401, and then we have unauthorized. So like unauthorized like that. Perfection. Oh, okay. So one other problem is that suppose you are, there's no error. So if there's no error, you don't return this next error handler, right? But you basically return this user. So you could have to you could basically put this in your request and save it there. So you could just have the request, remember, request.user, and then you could assign to that user that you use. So what I'm asking is that whenever it's verified, the token will have its user state. Remember the ID, the info of the user, that will be initialized to our request.user that you're basically using, and then we could use this for our update API route. So what I'm going to do is initializing it and then handling it the next part using next. So this is our middleware. This is going to be so neatly done. So you're going to see right now I removed all of this, and this is pretty much it. For our verify user, we're just going to call this in our user.controller.js. Before that, we're going to have to call it in the user.route.js. So over here, we're going to say, first of all, verify the user, okay? If the user is verified, so let me just import this as well. So let me just go here, control space, and then we have this. So we have verify user from utils verify user.js, okay? This is the verification coming from there. Now, what you want to do here is that we have this, verifying part, and we want to say if somehow it's a success, the user has been verified, and it returns this request.user, the same exact response will go to the user.controller. Why I'm saying that? Because over here it says when it's verified, go to the update user, and that update user is basically here. So whatever exists over here, so if I just say console.log, I'm basically using that same thing coming from that first thing. So log, and then I say request.user, that will basically be this thing right here, which is going to this update user controller, which is right here. Okay, so now let's check this out in a console. I believe everything is running. So right now you can't particularly see it unless you test it using like a tool. So we're going to use Thunder Client again. Okay, so right here we have 13 days ago we used. So let's just click on this one, and we have this. First of all, we have to sign in, authenticate. Okay, so we have this 123@gmail.com and 123. Let's sign in. So you can see I have signed in. I got a random picture. Remember, when you don't give a picture, it creates a default picture. This is the ID that we need. Now this is important. We're gonna have to copy this ID, and we're gonna use this for our next call. So now the next call will be post, but it will actually be, because this one is actually signing in, and we're using post to sign in, right? So now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be using put to update. So we're gonna have a /API/user, and then we have so we're gonna have /API/user, and then we have the user ID. So okay, so I understand. /update, and then we have /user ID. Okay, so this is the way we're gonna do it, like this, and then we have to change the update here. Right now at the moment it doesn't accept any kind of JSON, so we're just gonna ignore this. I mean, you know what, I really didn't want to change this. This is why I stopped. I didn't want to change my API here because I might have to reuse this, right? So instead we could just create another one. So now new request here, just copy this existing one and paste it right here. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're just going to use this as post, and you're going to use the 3000 API user, and then okay, so this is API auth. Okay, I think it was auth. I believe it's like that. No, it was user. Let me just verify that it was actually, because we're basically gonna have to test this out. Let's see, if I go to the routes, and then we have auth.route. So click on this, we have sign in. Yeah, I believe it's auth. And if we go to the index, so we have API/auth. Yeah, so /API/user, and this is /API/auth. So basically this is auth. Let me retry this again. Let me retry signing in. Send. Okay, 404 not found. Okay, /API/user/sign in. Okay, so there's some kind of issue now. I don't know why. Oh, this is the problem. So /API/user/API/auth, and then we have sign in. We didn't have to put, but actually post. So I mean, now it's perfect, and this is the auth over here. /API/user/sign in. We basically want /update, and then we want the profile ID. So it's essentially this thing, what you're getting, this thing. So just get this and paste it right here. Okay, so now I'm not passing any kind of thing. I just have to make sure my method set to put, and now you'll see a console log. So when I click on this, processing request, please wait. So let's see. Yeah, So right there, you could see ID, which is this ID. You see this ID? This is coming from my cookie. So this is coming from my cookie. Can you believe that? This is the same exact ID that has passed over here. See this URL? This is the same profile ID, but I'm not asking from the URL. I'm asking from my cookie. So what it means is that, remember this request.user, it got that, it passed it to the next, which is in the controller, and that's what you're seeing over there, my cookie profile ID, which is matching my URL ID. So we could basically grab the URL ID and the cookie and basically compare. If it's both equal, then it's allowed to update. I hope you understood this logic now. So this is the exact same logic we're going to be using. So we got everything tested perfectly, and all we got to do now is first add some conditions. So first of all, we have to check if the request.user.id. Now let's check this out. Request.user is from that cookie. So request.user.id, right? Because this is from the ID, and it's not going to be ._ID, because we basically created this cookie. And I remember, I think I showed you before, it was in the auth controller. If you remember, in the auth controller, we created an ID. So we used this valid user ._ID, but we assigned it to ID. That's why it's basically called ID. Okay. So let's go back here, and if this ID from the cookie is not matching, so we'll first have bad cases. So we'll have not matching the request.params. We're going to be using params.user ID from the parameter. Okay, so we're basically using this request.params. Okay, so if this is something like that, we're going to have to throw out some errors. So we're going to say return next error handler, and we have 4 zeros unauthorized. So let's actually add this error handler, and I think we're good to go. Next after this is if we have another issue, like suppose we have request.body.password, and now we have to check. Now I'm talking about request.body.password. What does this mean? Now we're talking about this profile. Now remember, this is basically whenever you send something, it's going to go as a request to the backend. So there's this request.body.password, which is this field, which is right here. Okay, whatever I type in over here, okay, whatever I send when I submit it, it basically is the request.password. Okay, so if it's saying if there is some password, we gotta have to put in a check. What is the check over here? Okay, if the request.password exists, now you have to put in a check. If the request.body.password, okay, so request.body.password, okay, so the length has to be more than 6. So we have to say if it's less than 6, you have to say it has to be at least 6. So you could just return and next, and then we have error handler, and we say 400, or so password must be at least 6 characters long. Okay, so this is our next check over here. After that, with the password is done, we want to check if the username. So there's some kind of conditions I have for the username. The first is request.user.request.body. So essentially what we have is request.body, and then we have .username. Okay, so if the username exists, okay, so what you want to do here is if the username exists, then you want to check the username's first thing, the length. So it has to be in between request.body.username length. So that length, okay, that should be if it's less than 7, or if the request.body.username.length is greater than 20, okay. So what we want to do here is we want to basically return this next error handler, and it says 400, user must be between 7 and 20 characters. I hope long, and then this is the return. It's kind of like similar, it's like a pattern over here. So the next thing we want to do is right after this, if you could go here, okay. So right after that, we have another condition in the request.username. So if there includes like spaces, we want to remove, we don't want those spaces, right? We don't want a username with spaces, so we want it all concatenated. So we say request.body.username.includes, and you can see over here we have spaces. So if it includes spaces like this, you basically go return an error handler saying error username cannot contain spaces, so it doesn't just allow it, you know, it doesn't accept, you don't have to manually fix it for them and concatenate it. So you know, it just neglects it. And then after that, the same thing is if you know, if the, you know, request.body doesn't match the lowercase, it has to be in lowercase, it can't be in uppercase, the username. So request.body dot username not equal to, so request.user, wait a minute, request.user dot, wait a minute, okay, we didn't need that. So it's request.body.username, remember what you passed in. If this not equals to the request.body.username, okay, and then we have dot to lowercase, okay, like this, okay. So okay, so if the request.body.username, whatever you passed, right, if that username not equals to the request.body.username.to lowercase, so it does not equal lowercase, it's capital, you're just going to have that same kind of return issue. So return next, and then we have error handler 400, you know, username must be lowercase. This is like 400 means like a client side error, so the client made the issue, right, you got to fix it. So I recommend checking out all the status codes. Now after that we have another one, which is request.body.username. Okay, so if the request.body.username, now we could just you know, have it constrained to a certain number of characters and, you know, a certain type of characters. So it will only be lowercase letters, uppercase letters, and numbers, and it can't be anything like special characters, the username. So we say if the request.body.username does not follow these kind of specifics, so dot match, if it does not match like this, and you could basically say right here, round bracket, and in here we have this. So it's essentially, it's saying there's a / and then we have an exponent, you know, exponentiation, and then we have in the square bracket we have A to Z in lowercase, and then we have, okay, A to Z in lowercase, A to Z in uppercase like this, and then we have 0 to 9, and then we have plus, and then we have dollar, and then we have this slash. This is all regex, and then this is regex syntax, okay, and it just says that it should be no, so it has to match lowercase, uppercase, and numbers. That's all. But it says if it does not match this, right, it's something else like special characters or something. So it says username must contain only letters and numbers. Got it? So that's basically it. So these were kind of you know, pretty restrictive rounds, and we have to you know, have to satisfy all these rounds before we could actually go and update the thing. So if all of this is successful, so till here, you see this if.username, if all of this is successful, let's zoom out a little, okay, so you can see all of these rounds had to go through the body, request.body.password, request.body.username. If all of this has, you know, gone successfully correct, then you're going to basically update the user using try and catch. I think you understand now the flow here. So console.log, you don't have to do that. You could basically use the next middleware and use the error handler, which is basically passing in like that. So essentially, it takes care of the whole process for you right here. But in the try part, what you want to do is you want to basically update this user now. So let's go in here. And now in this try part, first of all, you're going to have to await the user model. So we have to await user and find by ID and then update. This is a method. And essentially, you're gonna have to get the ID. So you could basically get it from the URL. Remember the URL? We have two ways: one the cookie and one the URL. Use it from the URL. So what you could say is request.params.user ID. Okay, so perfect. Now one other thing I want to say is that we have to put this in a like a now it's underlining it because one reason. One, we have to put in a variable, so we'll say updated user. Okay, it's still going to give you this problem is because we didn't put async up there inside this function. So right here we have export const update user is equal to, and then we have over here ASYNC, and then this request response and next, and now that error should be gone. Okay, so now, you know, we got the updated user, and we have to pass in some other things. So because we're updating, we have to use this set property, the set. So this set thing. So it's basically called $, and we have set. And then over here it says request.body. Now this thing is gonna basically update everything, and yes, all of this username, password, email, profile picture, all of the things will update it, but it's a very big security concern. Suppose if a user randomly uses like a Thunder client, and now he doesn't have only this, but what if there was a field called for a user like is admin, and you if a hacker knows it, he could basically assign it to true, pass it as a JSON, and then get access as admin privileges. That's not good, right? So we shouldn't do like that at all. So we basically want to do is we have this set, but inside it we would put this. So inside of it we would line by line define what we only allow to update. So we could just say username, and that's basically the the model. So saying basically the request.body.username, you basically pass it, that should be updated. Or and then the same thing goes for email, and then we have the request.body dot email, and then we have the same thing goes for we have a profile picture. So we have profile picture. These are all the things that came from the model. So request.body.profile picture. Come on. Okay, come on. Okay, and the last one is basically password. So we have request.body.password. Okay, and then we have this. Okay. So we have all of this stuff updated. Now, one other problem with this is that when I update this, it's not going to return the updated version as a response, but it's going to return the old version. And for that purpose, what I would have to do is, first of all, right after this, you see this, right after request.param.user_id. So essentially, right after this thing, so inside the set, right after that, we have to put in a thing which is called new, and then we have true. Okay, this is now going to return the most recent updated thing. So this is there like that. I believe it's like that. So you essentially now have this return. So it's going to return you this updated user, right? So updated. We just say updated. Okay, so you can now return that, but you know that you're going to get a password with it, just like in normal cases. So you want to not include that password as a response. So essentially what you could do is, what is happening here? It's saying response.status, but not like that. We want to filter out that. So we could say const, and then in here we have the password field, and then we have the spread operator with the others. Okay, so or you could basically say others or rest. I'll use rest. So over here we have the spread operator because we're being consistent with all the other code places where we did this. So the password will be taken out, and the rest will remain the same, and that will equal to the updated. So up. So, and that's basically where am I filtering this out from, is updated._doc. If you go to the updated user._doc, you will see that they will have its own updated fields like username, email, profile, password. And from there we took out password and we just got the everything else, rest. Okay. And now we only put rest here. So we actually _doc, I believe it's like that. So what we're gonna now is it's simple. Response.status 200 means it's a success. Now what we want to do is just return a JSON and have the rest sent. Okay, so now all of that, it looks good, and I believe we have that there. I think we have to import this user model as well, control space, and yeah, let's include that. See, okay, so so we have this user model, error handler. Everything looks good. Let's run and see everything, if everything is working as expected. So right now, for instance, we just got it crashed. So we have model, and we have user.model. Okay, so where is this coming from? Well, it's coming from, scroll up a little. Okay, so it's coming from, yeah, so user.controller.js. So user.controller.js, user.model.js. It has to have the .js thing over here for the backend. Make sure that is happening. Okay, user.model.js. I believe that's perfect. I believe it's like that. So if we go to the, where is the models folder? So this is the models folder and user.model.js. Yeah, perfect. Save it. Okay, it's still crashing. Now what's the issue? Now you see over here. So we have throw new error module, and it says over here imported from server. Okay, and then after that we have error. I'm just gonna have to find this issue. What is this happening? Okay, so we have over here the same kind of thing, utils, and then we have error. Okay, I believe this is a URL. Throw new error. Oh, it has to say error.js. This is so important. Don't forget these extensions, especially in the backend part. And now it's connected. So this is very important. Remember to include your .js and .js for the backend. For the front end, it doesn't really matter. Right here in the backend, I'm talking about. So now let's test it out. So let's go here in the let's go in the API. So over here, remember we had tried to update it. Now we're gonna correctly update it. So first of all, we have to send this sign in to get our access token. Got it? So we got this ID. Just copy this. Now I want to show you where this access token. You basically have the cookie, right? The cookie has this access token, and this is your access token generated, right, from JWT. Now it has your profile ID, so you could use that profile ID to now have this updated process. So we have a put. We have to go into the body, and we have to put in JSON. So over here we could just pass in things that we want to update. Now normally it would work in the front end, but right now we could test it as the back end with these fields. So first is username, password, and then email and password. And there's also profile picture. So let's do first of all username, I would say. So username, and then we could just say the new username. So currently right now, what's the username? So you could see right now it has a username of 123. Right now it's never gonna allow me to do this anymore because remember I put a check that has to have at least so I say 12345 is not gonna allow me to do it because I have a check that says at least 7 to 20 characters. Now if it's done, let's check the other one, which is I believe it's a password. So okay, and then a password would be another string, and we could essentially update the password as well. So what is the password? So we could update the password, but we could also update other things like email. So I would say we could update the password. We don't know right now. That's why I'm not going to test it out. We could update the email. So let's email, and then we'll have email updated to 123@gmail.com. So this is going to allow me, the email will be updated. So I could say this, but right now it's not going to update anything because this is the problem. Try to send it. You can see over here success false, status code 400, and you can see over here username must be between 7 to 20 characters as expected. So 5, 6, and 7. So let's see. Now let's send it, and now you can see that the username has been updated and the email has been updated. So that's perfectly done. And remember, this is right now not stored here, but it's actually stored in Mongo database. And over there, I guarantee you everything is going to be saved. So I'm just going to have to log in, and you'll see that it's going to be saved there. But now one other thing that is expected here is, suppose if we had a space, and remember, like I try to add this space, it's not going to allow me to update it. Say update cannot contain spaces, username cannot contain spaces. Same thing if I add some special characters like this, cannot contain spaces. But with that, if I add special characters like this, so okay, so I think I put some capital letters too. So I'm trying to put, okay, let me just remove this, and this is the name, and with it let's just add some special characters. So can contain only letters and numbers. So this is basically it. I mean, you could see that I actually have like a protected layer that protects my database from having these kind of random nonsense values that I don't want. I want consistent data organized in my database, so I could use these kind of checks in my backend API. And then once it's successfully done, like in a proper formatted state, then I could successfully update the account. So that's basically it. So 8, 9, and then email 5. I think it's enough. So if I say email, okay, now I mean there's the email. I mean it doesn't really matter because you change the username, and the username now has been updated, and the email is the same, but you understand my point. We could actually have it alone too. So like this, and then if I try to send it, you can see it's just basically updating it for me. Whenever it doesn't really matter, it's the same, but it just updates it. But I hope you understood this part so far. And the next part, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be connecting our backend API with our front end. So we're going to basically update here by clicking on update, okay, instead.